Yo, what's up, team? I am back in the building to bring you guys another movie review. Today, we will be reviewing The Irishman. Now, I tried to watch this movie early because the trailers were just fire, but I didn't get a chance to because the theater had terrible showings. I'm talking about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 10 o'clock at night on a Monday. So, I sat back and I said, you know what, I'm just going to wait until it premieres on Netflix. And it premiered on Netflix. And I went to Netflix and I saw this at 3 hours and 30-some minutes. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a nap. I took that nap. I got that bowl of cereal. And I sat there and I enjoyed what some may call a masterpiece. The Irishman. Let's talk about what I liked about this movie. There are so many things about this film that I loved. There's so many things about this film that I didn't like. But overall, this movie was tight. And the reason why it was tight is because of the epicness of the story. This movie is kind of based on true events, but then it's not. Kind of like how they did Boardwalk Empire. Boardwalk Empire, yeah, Nookie Thompson made up character, yada, 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 but the rest of the cast around him were actual gangsters. And that's kind of how this is, but more on the truth. And I love that because this is history. This is that gangster history. So much gangster stuff was going on between like 1900 and 1989. It's mind-blowing. And this is one story that they took part of, which had to do with Jimmy Hoffa and the mobs and the unions and Robert Kennedy and JF Kennedy and everything like that, and that's what we got. And they did it so well. One of the main things about the story that I really dug was that how they incorporated all these gangsters in this movie, and they broke down these gangsters' lives too in this movie. I thought that was brilliant. Like when a gangster would show up, bing, here he is, and they'll show when he died and how he died, and you're like, okay, so we know this guy ain't gonna live throughout this movie. And that was really phenomenal. I really love that. And I love the fact that even though this movie is slow paced, like the story's slow, it's slow, but it's just so much information, and the story pulls you in to this world. You don't really acknowledge that you're there waiting for 3 hours and 30 minutes watching this movie. In fact, you sit there. I took an intermission because I had to go, go to the restroom. But you really sit there and you're like, dang, this movie's great. It has a nice steady beat throughout the story. Nothing where it's like, ugh. You're really just in it because you're learning something and you're seeing phenomenal acting. Now this acting is what I call golden, because you got Al Pacino, you have Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci in another mobster movie. These guys are known for doing mobster films, and they came together to do The Irishman. These gentlemen have not lost a beat. Like, they're old, and they're outdoing these young guys. Their take on gangster movies is just so authentic. It doesn't feel synthetic at all. It doesn't feel like they're trying to mimic other actors. They just do them. Robert De Niro is just, what can I say? It's Robert De Niro. It's like you can't even Al Pacino, we know who he is, and they have not disappointed me in any of this stuff in this whole movie. Joe Pesci has been gone, and he comes back like nothing has changed. Joe Pesci is just that damn good. I really enjoyed watching the acting, and there's a lot more actors in this movie. Like, if you're Italian in Hollywood, you're in this film. Now, and it's funny because you recognize so many actors from any gangster movie. Like, you got the young Italian actors now coming in playing these roles, and they blended in well. And I feel like they learned so much from the greats in this movie. And it was just beautiful seeing the collaboration of these actors come together like, yo, you guys are really doing this. And so many familiar faces in Hollywood in this type of movie, and the acting was just beautiful. I felt something watching this movie. I felt good. Like, you know what I mean? It was funny because I watched the first half. Like I said, I took an intermission, and I sat back down, and I just pushed play, and it just went like nothing changed. I didn't feel like, oh, okay, let me rewind this. You really got the whole movie as they gave it to you, because the story was solid and the acting was solid. So everything they said, you grabbed. You didn't have to rewind. You didn't have to say, wait, what was that? No. They made sure that everything that they did was clear. And I think that's what helped this train move so smoothly. I don't know why Joe Pesci doesn't get his name spoken more in Hollywood. But Joe Pesci is like one of those gems when it comes to like gangster movies. Like, people just don't speak on him like they should. Because I watched this man play a subtle gangster. I seen him play subtle gangsters, raunchy gangsters, hothead gangsters, but he just does the gangster role so well. You would think he really got goons in real life. Like, you would think he was raised in that environment of goons, because he just knows how to approach that script, that character. I don't give a freak who he plays. He just knows how to do it. My favorite character of the whole movie, even though Robert De Niro and Al Pacino were just fire, but it was Joe Pesci, man. He was just so smooth with it. Just like, it was a new one, because he usually plays like, you know, in your face and everything, but he's older. But he was just so dope. I really like Joe Pesci in this movie. But I can't give all the credit to the epicness of the acting. I gotta bring in what we call the golden ages of directing. I'm talking about Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese directed this movie. And for someone like Martin Scorsese to come in the building and really show up, I think honestly these directors and actors are low-key showing up these young bucks and letting them know how it's done. Because for you to direct a movie that's 3 hours and 30-something minute plus, and you keep me entertained from script, acting, and directing, I'm like, yo, Martin Scorsese's just that dude. The name will always be golden with me. Martin Scorsese just has an eye for mobster and dialogue. Story is his thing, and he so detail oriented on his work. I love it, because it's like learning. It's history. I'm able to take a true event, based on true event, write my own story of it, tweak something here and there, but for the most part, you get the point. You understand the fear, you understand the love, the funny. You get everything that I'm going to give you in this movie. And Martin Scorsese's able to take that script with those iconic, and I mean iconic actors, and come in and not get showed up. Like, no one got showed up in this movie. From directing, from acting, from script. It all mashed together well. It was like, yo, we are a unit. And Martin Scorsese controlled that unit well. From the fight scenes, the gangsters, the guns, the violence. And he kept it respectful though. Like, it wasn't what I would say like very graphic or very bloody. He kept it grounded because he wanted you to experience the film. And he did such a great job doing that. And he used this new technology of de-aging and everything like that. And I thought that was dope. Like, for the most part, seeing, you know, a younger version of Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, you know what I mean, Joe Pesci and stuff like that. Ray Romano came in there. They de-aged these cats, and they did certain stuff that I thought was really cool. I liked that. I really did. I really enjoyed the style, because it's a dying style in film, and Martin Scorsese was able to bring that back. and I want more. I'm watching these films die out due to all these movements and everything, these agendas. Everything is changing, and change is not always bad. You know what I mean? Because these gentlemen had to change the game back in the 60s and the 70s because film was changing. But the style of the art is just not there no more. And I really appreciated this film all the way through. It was just such a breath of fresh air watching this movie. I can still taste the air. It's delicious. Now, these things that I didn't like in this movie, and one of the things I didn't like was the de-aging process. Because even though they de-aged my boys, they still walk like they were old. They still move like they were old. And I just like, oh man, I ain't like that. Because it was like, yo, his arm is still kind of half cocked because he's old. Like, they moved like they were old, but they looked young. And I thought that was whack. I was like, ugh. Like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. The de-aging thing. Granted, I appreciate the movie being 3 hours and 30-something minutes. But I understand, like I said before, film has changed. And I thought that maybe it could have been a part 1, part 2 idea. Because most of the audience who don't understand these type of films might walk away. It's their loss. Don't get me wrong. It's their loss. But we want to gravitate more people. And I felt it being so long possibly hurt this movie even more. Because a lot of people aren't going to have the patience to sit there for a 3 hour and 30-minute film. Especially if they're new to this film game. And they don't understand what mobsters are. I also, it's not that I didn't like, but I felt that they didn't do a good job as far as explaining gangster mentality to the newer audience.
He ain't lying.
I grew up with, the Duke. You know what I'm saying? Marlon Brando. You know what I mean? Godfather and John Wayne and stuff. I grew up with that. Clint Eastwood. I grew up with that. My dad, that's what we watch. Charlie Chaplin, the Three Stooges and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Clark Gable. I grew up with that. So I understand when we go into these type of movies. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, if I got a 15-year-old trying to watch a mobster film, and yes, we're in 2019, and yes, we ain't supposed to watch that, but Kiss My Butt. We watching that. I watched it as a kid. I grew up alright. I ain't out there trying to be, wise guy, I ain't seen it. I'm not doing none of that. You know what I mean? But I think they need to explain mobster mentality better to the newer audience. So they can grab them in and pull them in. Because you got to remember, even though this story was great, the story was dope. It had me on Google right after the movie. Like, let me see. Did they ever find it? You know what I mean? But I can see a lot of people just snipping off to the latest and greatest eye candy movie right next to it. And I feel that they should have did a better job just explaining the gangster mentality so people can pull in. And maybe it shouldn't have been, I think it should have been 3 hours 30 minutes, but maybe it should have been a part 1, part 2. Because even I took an intermission, but I was ready. Like, this is my type of movies. I love this. Let's give this film a grade. The Irishman. The trailers were fire. The trailers reminded me of a time when I used to hang with my pops, sit down and watch gangster movies. It reminded me of a time where film was sweet and subtle and dope at the same time. It let me see these old school actors come back to the big screen together. Big screen as far as my television. And I have to say, Martin Scorsese is just that damn good. I'm going to give The Irishman an A-. And the reason why I give that A-, because that de-aging stuff was just like, I couldn't get over. I was laughing. I was like, yo, why is he moving like that? And it was long, but I enjoyed it, but you get my gist. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I keep that 100 at all times. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy real content, go ahead and push that subscribe button. Thumbs up this video, and don't forget to share. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your auntie, your dog, your pigeons. I don't give a freak. Just share this channel so people can find me. I'm J3, and I'm out.